Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
"What's going on, partner? Welcome to Near Mint Condition. I am the Uncanny Omar, and this is the home of collected editions. Today, I'm going to be going over my top 10 most wanted X-Men Omnis. So, let's go ahead and get started with that list. And welcome back, everybody. Now, if you're enjoying the content that we're putting on this channel, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And everyone, don't forget to smash that like button. It goes a long way for us here on the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 most wanted X-Men related Omnis. They don't have to be Uncanny X-Men or adjectiveless X-Men, as long as it's a spin-off or related to an X title. And this is a countdown, so I'll be starting with number 10, going all the way to number 1. I would love to know what you all would want as your most wanted X-Men related omnibus. That is if you're into X-Men. But I guess Spider-Man's hung out with the X-Men. There was a Spider-Man in the X-Men comic. Anyway, yeah, I would love to know all that. Leave that in the comment section. And as always, big thank you to our patrons for making videos like this possible. Cannot be doing this without you all. Alright, let's go ahead and start with number 10. Kicking off the list is Cable Revolution Omnibus. I feel like Cable has had some stuff collected in oversized format in chronological order if you've been getting all the X-Men OHCs, but not everybody has, nor did everybody pick up the Cable oversized hardcover. But I feel like this is what's the missing link between that oversized hardcover and the previous collections with like Operation Zero Tolerance. So it's kind of in between. You have the James Robinson era here, you have the Joe Casey era in here, and you have the Robert Weinberg era through these particular issues. So I called it Revolution, even though Revolution doesn't really start until issue number 70, I think 78, 79. Yeah, it's after the Apocalypse of 12. And speaking of Apocalypse of 12, I did include those issues in here, even though it's a little bit of a double dip, but they're also important to the character of Cable and what ends up happening to him and the whole Scimitar, if y'all remember that. But also the annual, and then of course the crossovers with X-Man. But that's how I'm going to kick this off. I want to see more of Cable collected in oversized format. Number 9, X-Men The Lost Years Omnibus, or X-Men 2.5. This would go right after Silver Age 2 and right before the Uncanny X-Men. It's stuff that's been collected in an Epic collection. It's stuff that's, or actually 1.5 Epic collections. I have a little more in here. And it's stuff that's been collected in the box set, but it hasn't been available in oversized format. I mean, some of it has been available in oversized format, like Avengers 110 and 111, if you're looking here. But this is, for the people that don't know, X-Men wasn't that popular back in the Silver Age. So it got canceled until Giant Size X-Men number 1, when we got a whole new second Genesis with brand new team. But before that, the X-Men were kind of scattered about. Beast was doing his own thing. Angel and Iceman were doing their own thing. Some of the villains would appear through some of different comics. And there are some really important issues in here, like Defenders 15 and 16, which shows what happens to Magneto and why, when he shows back up, he kind of snaps and really leads all into the X-Men relaunch with Chris Claremont and Jim Lee of issues 1, 2, and 3. But yes, that is my number 9 most wanted. At one time, I put this with Hidden Years, but they're doing a Hidden Years omnibus. So I feel like maybe, maybe they'll do this one day. Number 8, Gambit and Rogue Classic Omnibus. Both characters are so popular amongst X-heads, and it's time that we get a Gambit and Rogue Classic. And I put them both together. Not that Gambit doesn't deserve his own, not that Rogue doesn't deserve her own omnibus, but I put them together because they started a relationship early on, and honestly, I put them together because I would love Kelly Thompson's Gambit and Rogue series collected, but that's more of the modern stuff, so I'm jumping ahead. This is the mini series that are collected through here, some early appearances, and it's not just Gambit, it's also the Rogue mini series, but this is the kind of stuff that I want collected in an omnibus format and put together. Because, I mean, it wouldn't take much. I mean, Gambit, yes, outweighs a lot of the Rogue miniseries, and he had his own ongoing by Fabian Nicieza. But I feel like with the second volume, we could put in the Bishop in Gambit, and we can put the Rogue ongoing series. But I think this is a good start. Of course I think this is a good start. I'll put it on this damn list. Why wouldn't I think it's a good start? What am I talking about? Okay, number 7. Generation X Omnibus Volume 1. We've had the epics, and I think we've had 3, 4 solicited, and it wouldn't take very much. I mean, honestly, it would probably take 2, maybe 3 Omnis, depending on how they map it. And they know X-Men sell, and they probably will do 3, but oh my gosh, yeah, this is kind of like the era of X-Men, when I kind of walked away from comics. So coming back and reading them for the first time after a long hiatus was really nice. And then, eventually you have James Robinson writing the series, then you have Larry Hama writing the series, and I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It's not all great, but there's a lot of fun memories of this for people, and it's got a lot of love in the epic format. So I just hope they clean up those scans if ever we get an omnibus. Number 6, this has been on my list before, but I don't know how many people want this. Doesn't matter. Captain Britain and the MI-13. Oh my gosh, Paul Cornell just came into comics and completely took people by surprise. He was such a great writer, and I want to include the Wisdom miniseries in here. Wrote my favorite 2 episodes of Doctor Who, and I actually got to interview him, tell him that, and tell him how much I love this series and how much I want to see this in an omnibus format. This is the stuff years after Excalibur. As a matter of fact, I think it started right around the Secret Invasion era. It didn't last very long. I don't think people hyped it up as much. It lasted 15 issues, but I would love to see that collected in one book. Wouldn't be a big omnibus. Maybe you could put it together with New Excalibur, but even that has a different feel to it. I kind of like it alone. Oh, I'm a completist. Put it with New Excalibur. I may redo that later. Maybe. No. I stand my ground. Paul Cornell. Yeah. Number 5. Exiles Omnibus Volume 1. If you haven't had a chance to read this series, it is so good. It is Quantum Leap. It is Leapers. Is that what it was called? I think it was called. It was a show on Fox. I can't remember what the heck it was called. But anyway, Jerry O'Connell. Leapers? Anyway, it is a group of X-Men from different timelines that, I think there's 6 of them, that have to go and fix timelines across the different universes. It's so good. Because much like Suicide Squad, not all of them make it. Some get killed within the first story arc, and the cast constantly changes. The characters that people were immediately drawn to were people like Blink from the Age of Apocalypse. To throw a little madness in there, there's also Evil Leapers, or an Evil Exiles group, that are led by Sabretooth from the Age of Apocalypse. There's 6 of them, and that cast is constantly changing. Oh my gosh, these were the stories that were originally started by Judd Winnick, and then Tony Bedard took over the book, and then Chris Claremont took over the book. And Mike McCone, Paul Pelletier, and just to name a few of the artists that were drawing this. Chuck Austin did a run, but that was until later. But that was a crossover with the X-Men. Yeah, it was just a really fun series for people that are X-heads, that love X-Men history and lore. It was just fun to see different universes, different versions of characters. Next up, speaking of different universes and different versions of characters, Mutant X Omnibus. Now, this can definitely be all in one, because the series only lasted 32 issues. And it's funny because I talked to Howard Mackey about this. Like, the idea was there, but nobody really knew when to start it. So when X Factor 149 came out, they solicited 150. They even said next issue, this is what happens to Havoc, but then they were like, no, let's just scrap that comic, and we're going to make a new comic where Havoc goes into this alternate reality where there's a Vampire Storm and a Madeline Pryor. This was an excellent series. If you haven't read it, there are 2 complete collections available, but hopefully we'll get it in an omnibus format. It's got some great artwork by Tom Rainey and great character designs. All right, here we go. X-Force by Kyle and Yost Omnibus is my number 3 pick. So we're at the top 3 already. Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty One Day. This is an era, talking to my Saturday streams when I do them, feels like a lot of people want this era collected in omnibus format, the whole Messiah trilogy. And I've had the Messiah trilogy on my list before, and I've had the X-Force by Kyle and Yost before. But we've had reprints of Uncanny X-Force, and now it's time, because I really like this series. This series was so good. Kyle and Yost had taken over when New Mutants became New X-Men. They had taken over New X-Men, introduced the character of X-23, and then started doing this Black Ops series of X-Men. Oh man, it was so good. And of course, it spun out of the Messiah complex. And in here, I do have the Messiah War crossover. And then, of course, we got Ex Necrotia and Second Coming. But I hope, because those oversized hardcovers are out of print, the complete collections are out of print, this entire era hasn't been reprinted in a long time. So I hope they do something like this. Number 2, XMen Legacy Omnibus 1 through 3. So I've got 3 Omnis here. Thought about doing just Mike Carey's collection, but his would take 2. And then Christos Gage came on board. This is one of the most underrated X-Men series. Whenever I ask people what their favorite X-Men series, hardly anybody ever mentions this one. I think a lot of people took notice of this series because of Jonathan Hickman using some of the stuff from here, like the Children of the Vault, for the same reason that people took notice of Kieran Gillen's X-Men run. But if you've not read it, there's a lot of great stuff in here. It's my type of retcon, not changing big things, but changing things for the better, if you will. Makes a lot of these characters that have been around for a while a lot more interesting, and giving the spotlight to lesser known characters. Completely under the radar, and we've had hardcover collections, not deluxe editions, but hardcover, standard size hardcovers, and then the trade paperbacks. But we don't even have complete collections of this era, and it's been out of print for so long. So I think we really need something like this. This is what what Adjectiveless X-Men turned into New X-Men, and then back to X-Men, and then that became X-Men Legacy. So it is that line that Chris Claremont and Jim Lee started in 1991. Now, my number 1 most I cannot believe this is my number 1. This shows how badly we need this book. My number 1 most wanted X-Men related omnibus is Road to Onslaught. Not my favorite story, but a much needed gap filler. We have Onslaught Omnibus, and we've had the Age of Apocalypse stuff. So this is the stuff that would happen between Age of Apocalypse and Onslaught Omnibus. Like I said, it's not my favorite era, not even the greatest stories, but a much needed gap filler. And it's been quite a number of years since we've had, an one-off X-Men Omnibus. We've had, Uncanny 5, we're getting an X-Factor Classic 1, we have Excalibur 1, 2, and 3 coming out next year, or 3's coming out next year, we have New Mutants 1, 2, and 3, Wolverine 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5's coming out next year. So it's been a while since we've had one of these that are gap fillers, and we desperately need it. I cannot believe I was ever going to put an Onslaught-related book on my number 1, but here we are. Times, how they have changed. Now, if and when these books come out, don't forget to pre-order from our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code NEARMINTCONDITION at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was my top 10 most wanted X-Men related Omnis. Let me know in the comments down below what your most wanted would be, which from this particular list you would enjoy, which one you really need to have, even if you have just top 5, top 1, whatever it is, let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, and please, I love when you all are like, hey, that mapping needs this and this, and sometimes you guys are right, absolutely, I missed something. I am not perfect. And then sometimes, I'm like, well, I've thought about putting that in. Anyway, leave those comments down below. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.